I was halfway through a mug of burnt Marina coffee when the excavator growled to life. From the window of the harbor office I watched the yellow machine crawl down Pier C like a metal crab, its arm folded, bucket swaying. 2 men in hard hats walked ahead of it carrying clipboards stamped with the crimson logo of the Seabreeze Heights Homeowners Association. Behind them trailed a small audience, retirees with sun visors, a few dog walkers, and, of course, Marjorie Kane, president of the HOA, striding as if she were leading troops into battle. At the end of the pier sat my pride and joy, the 60-foot azimuth I'd docked here for years, the Northern Star. Teak deck, twin diesels polished like mirrors, hull so white it reflected the gulls. She looked out of place beside the fishing skiffs and pontoon boats, but that contrast had always amused me. I came to the coast to escape my corporate life inland. The yacht was my floating cabin of silence. Until Seabreeze decided otherwise. Their letter had arrived 3 days earlier. Notice of enforcement action. Vessel illegally moored in residential association waters without authorization. Removal scheduled. I'd laughed at first. The marina wasn't association waters. It was a commercial harbor governed by the City Port Authority. The HOA controlled the condo lawns on the bluff above us and liked to behave as if the ocean itself were subject to their paint color rules. I carried the letter to the office manager, Raoul. He frowned. "They've been asking questions," he admitted. "Saying your boat violates neighborhood character." I told them we don't answer to them. Apparently they didn't care who answered to whom. By the time I reached Pier C that morning, the excavator was idling 10 meters from the Northern Star. The men with clipboards were arguing with a port officer who'd been summoned in haste. I heard phrases like, emergency nuisance, aesthetic blight, and security risk. Marjorie pointed at the yacht as though it were leaking poison. "There he is," she announced when she saw me. "Mr. Dalton, you were notified. Please step aside so contractors can proceed." I asked the port officer, "What is this circus?" He shrugged helplessly. "They claim they have a vote from the association to clear the pier. Contractors say they were hired privately." Raoul arrived jogging, tie flapping. "You can't touch that vessel," he told them. "This pier is leased by Harbor Gate Marina. The HOA has no jurisdiction." Marjorie smiled thinly. "Harbor Gate may operate, but Seabreeze owns the underlying property rights granted decades ago when the development was approved. We've reviewed the covenants." That was the first time I realized she'd done enough homework to be dangerous. The contractors tried to board. I blocked the gangway. Words rose. Phones appeared to record the confrontation. The excavator operator, bored, tapped ash from a cigarette onto the planks. Finally the port officer ordered everyone to halt until the city attorney could review the documents. The machine retreated, but the crowd left buzzing as if denied a spectacle. Marjorie handed me another envelope. "Consider this your final opportunity," she said. Inside was a new claim for $48,000 in fines. The feud hadn't started with the yacht. It began the previous winter when Seabreeze attempted to install a gate across the access road to the harbor, arguing it would protect residents from outsiders. I organized the marina businesses and persuaded the city to reject the gate. Marjorie never forgave me for that public defeat. Then she discovered the Northern Star. HOA meetings became theater nights devoted to my boat. I was painted as a villain oligarch invading humble community space. They circulated rumors that I hosted wild parties, that the engines were illegally loud, that my crew spied on residents. None of it was true. I rarely even stayed overnight, but truth is optional fuel for associations hungry for purpose. I phoned my lawyer inland, Denise Harper, who specialized in property labyrinths. She listened patiently. "Send me everything about the harbor's ownership," she said. "There might be a historical thread they're tugging." That evening I dug through old files left by my late uncle, who'd first introduced me to this coast. Among insurance papers I found a brittle deed labeled, Dalton Coastal Holdings, Harbor Tracts. My heart skipped. I'd assumed the marina was owned by a patchwork of families. The document suggested otherwise. Denise called back at midnight. "You won't believe this," she said. "The tracts under Piers A through D were purchased by your family company in 1989 and never sold. The HOA has been paying a token lease to the city, which in turn pays you. You effectively own the marina basin." I nearly dropped the phone. All these years I'd been the landlord without knowing it. Denise warned me not to reveal the discovery yet. Let them overreach, she advised. Document every threat. Marjorie obliged magnificently. 2 weeks later the excavator returned, this time escorted by a private security team hired by Seabreeze. They arrived before dawn hoping to act without interference. I was staying in the office precisely because Denise predicted such an ambush. The operator managed to smash the yacht's bow rail before Raoul and I forced another halt. The damage was minor but symbolic, a scar across the starboard like a sneer. I photographed everything while security insisted I was trespassing on HOA property. That afternoon Denise filed an injunction on behalf of Dalton Coastal Holdings, naming the HOA, the contractors, and even the excavator rental firm. The city attorney, embarrassed, admitted they'd overlooked the old ownership structure. Seabreeze responded with fury. They claimed the ownership was irrelevant, the association had the right to maintain community standards. Marjorie announced at a televised meeting that the HOA would liberate the harbor from monopolists. Then came their masterpiece of stupidity. They cut the dock lines at night and towed the Northern Star into shallow mud near the breakwater, declaring it removed. I woke to find my yacht listing gently in silt, gulls perched on the radar arch as if she were a beached whale. That was the moment gloves came off. Owning the Marina gave me tools I'd never considered using. Denise arranged for emergency crews to retrieve the yacht and bill the HOA for salvage. Meanwhile I convened the actual shareholders of Dalton Coastal Holdings, mostly cousins scattered across the country, via video call. We didn't even know this asset still existed, one cousin said, staring at the map Denise presented. Neither did I admitted. But someone's trying to destroy it. The board voted to appoint me harbor director with full authority. I signed the documents with hands trembling like a rookie captain. My first action was simple. Send Marjorie a certified letter explaining that any vessel movement required approval from Coastal Holdings. Denise drafted it with surgical politeness. Seabreeze ignored the notice, so I attended their next HOA meeting in person. The clubhouse on the bluff smelled of lemon cleaner and ambition. Marjorie was presenting slides titled Vision for a Residential Harbor Experience, plans to replace commercial piers with kayak racks and a pastel boardwalk. When she saw me, she paused only a second. Residents, please remember we do not engage with agitators, she said. I raised my hand anyway. I'd like to clarify something about ownership before you spend more member money. She sighed theatrically. You may speak for 1 minute. I used 10 seconds. My family company owns the Marina Basin and most of the piers. The Northern Star is not unauthorized. It is a tenant vessel of the actual landlord. The room went silent enough to hear the ocean wind rattling the flagpole outside. Marjorie laughed. That's absurd. Denise appeared beside me as if conjured, projecting the deeds onto the screen from her tablet. Gasps fluttered through the audience. The treasurer whispered, "We hired an excavator for property we don't own." "Yes," Denise replied cheerfully. "And you incurred liabilities approaching 6 figures." Marjorie attempted to continue the meeting, but members demanded explanations. The security gate crowd turned against her like a tide reversing. Someone asked why the city lease payments were routed through mysterious accounts. Denise explained that was rent to Coastal Holdings. By the end of the evening a recall vote was scheduled. I walked back down the hill feeling lighter than any cruise I'd taken. Retrieving the yacht from the mud cost $12,400. The excavator damage added another $9,000. Denise insured every invoice bore Seabreeze's name. The HOA's insurer refused coverage citing intentional acts. Panic replaced bluster. Marjorie phoned me directly for the first time. "Perhaps we can negotiate coexistence," she suggested, voice suddenly fragile. "You tried to bury my boat," I reminded her. Negotiate with Denise. The recall meeting a month later removed Marjorie and half the board. New directors asked for mediation. Denise agreed on condition that all fines be voided and contractors dismissed. They signed without reading twice. Seabreeze Heights discovered humility. But the harbor drama still had one chapter. The City Port Authority realized they'd been middlemen to the wrong landlord for years. Denise renegotiated the entire structure, granting Harbor Gate Marina a modern lease directly from Coastal Holdings. Businesses celebrated with banners across the piers. At the signing ceremony I finally revealed the restored Northern Star, polished again, music drifting from the deck, this time during an authorized community open house. Residents toured the cabins amazed that the blight was elegant inside. Even skeptics admitted she improved the pier. One elderly man told me, "Looks like you really do own the place." I smiled. Apparently I always did. Marina life returned to its rhythms. Diesel bells, gull arguments, the slap of water against hulls. Seabreeze focused again on lawn sprinklers rather than naval warfare. Marjorie moved to another county where I hear she's campaigning against RV parking. The Northern Star remains at the end of Pier C, a reminder carved in teak and paperwork that authority without knowledge is just noise. Every time I step aboard, I touch the scarred bow rail Denise insisted we keep unrepaired, a thin silver line under the polish. "Leave it," she said. "History is the best deterrent." And she was right. The excavator hasn't returned. The HOA sends holiday cards now signed by new presidents who know exactly whose waters they overlook. I still drink the terrible coffee, but the harbor tastes sweeter. After all, it's easy to relax when your cabin of silence floats on a marina that belongs to you. Yacht, piers, basin, and all the horizons Marjorie once tried to regulate.